guys, so welcome to another episode of Talkoffame podcast. It's so crazy to think how 2023 is flying by and November is literally almost over. But to try to end the year off on a good note, but is of course interviews for the podcast, like that crazy same old Jess. But so today we on the Talk of Fame podcast, we're joined by the one and only James Norkawich. James is a musician, producer, composer, arranger, and pianist. In January of 2023, his album A Connecticut Christmas was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Jazz Instrumental Album. It features all original arrangements and compositions with a unique fusion of soul, jazz, and funk. In the past, James has worked in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut in radio, on air, and off as well. Streaming on a platform online from 2006 to 2011, reaching a worldwide audience of 6 million listeners for one single year. James also has done numerous studio sessions at the Carriage House Studios for many established as up-and-coming artists. There is so many things James has done for his career that are bigger than this intro itself, trust me. But thank you so much, James, for coming on the chat. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you very much, Kylie, and it's great to be here.
Thank you. And what was, the moment you kind of realized that you wanted to get into music? Like, do you have like a specific memory or, background that you remember that you wanted to get into music?
Yeah, I mean, when from the age of probably like 5 or 6, I knew that I wanted to play, and whether it was the organ, whether it was piano, whether it was guitar, I just wanted to make music. I come from a music background in my family, so music to me was probably the greatest form of self-expression. And I mean, for many, some do sports. I actually did sports and I did music. However, music was the one that really resonated with, who I am and what I do. And as I studied more and eventually got into high school, I was in a program for the arts. So as part of your high school day, you go to the local college, study music, study jazz composition, jazz theory, and it was quite intensive. So you're going from school, from 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night. The exciting part about that was it opened doors, to when you go to apply for colleges, and you want to get into the right, cohesive music program. And honestly, I got into 5 out of the 6 schools that I applied to, but it wasn't until that summer, the college in my city that I, born and raised, they were offering scholarships. I tried out, auditioned, and I got my undergrad and my postgrad on scholarship. And then, really from there, music has always been a way of life, a way of expression, a way of just, decompressing from the day, just to, set the tone for, whatever you're doing, whatever you are. Like I always say, that music is the soundtrack of our lives. So we need to make it a good one. And that's kind of where the story begins from there.
Yeah, definitely. Like music is a great way to kind of cope with growing up. Like I know music has always been a part of my life. Like I remember when I was a baby, my sister would sing so many songs like Usher and everything to me when I was a little kid. And so growing up, I really always loved music, whether it's like country, pop, or even the late 90s, 80s, 70s type of music, like rock and roll, Michael Jackson, like those, ERA 70s, 80s, 90s music. Like even like music has always, been a part of my life in a vividly way. But like, do you have, a favorite memory growing up of doing music? Like I know you said like in high school you went to a local college for like studying music for a day or something. So I'm kind of curious to see like what your favorite like music memory is.
Wow, I have a lot of music memories. See, my first exposure was my grandfather. He played the organ, had 13 or 14 organs in his home. And it was, a moderately sized house, but nevertheless, to have 13 or 14 organs is crazy. It's like having 13 or 14 pianos. So,
Mhm.
at a young age, being exposed to the legends and greats who at that time were in their 80s and 90s and have since passed, and realized all the work that they did. And then being exposed to, as part of your high school day, being exposed to jazz artists and through, your teachers and professors. But it really was, kind of your heroes growing up that you listen to, that all of a sudden we had the chance to play and work. One of them being Chicago. I always listened to Chicago and listened to the stuff that was popular in the 80s and 90s growing up. But it was, when you're standing there and it was one of those performances that we were called to just basically fill in. And
Mm.
then they said, "Hey, by the way, once you show up, make sure you bring everything." Okay, you get there, and who are we playing for? And until I looked on the bass drum and saw the name Chicago, it just took on a whole new level of excitement. I mean, that, like, wow, I'm playing with someone that I idolize. It's like people now who are playing with Taylor Swift, or people who are playing with like Ed Sheeran's and Pink or Christina Aguilera. People that saw them growing up and now have followed their career and now have the opportunity to make their mark with that artist is just really something cool.
Yeah, it really is. Like if that happened to me, if I like performed for, like Keith Urban or somebody, I would never do something, that'll live up to that moment ever again in my life. Like that would be literally would be the best moment of my life. Like performing with someone, that you idolize or listen to growing up, because they really when you listen to different artists growing up, the same artists, and we're going to concerts of theirs and everything, it just hits different when you are opening for them, because I see a bunch of stories on social media about artists opening up for their like idols like Taylor Swift, Harry Styles, Morgan Wallen, like those type of big artists that are popular today. It's really, a big moment in like kind of, seeing your 12-year-old self performing like at their concert, and now like 27 years old, like 12 years later, you are at performing for their concert. Like it just literally hits different when as you get older.
And what's exciting, as older or as young as you may be, the like you said, just take an artist randomly, for example, like a Blake Shelton, or like when I was, in the 90s, Shania Twain was huge.
Yeah, I'm so happy you said that, because Shania Twain is literally my favorite singer of all time. Like
She is,
I literally before I jumped on this interview, I went to see her on tour like a couple months ago, and I was literally wearing her tour t-shirt before we headed on. I swear. I'm not
what's
even
funny. What's funny is, you mentioned before when I did work at the Carriage House Studio. Um, the Carriage House Studio is in Connecticut, and it met Tommy Mottola, who was president of Sony at the time, literally lived like three or four houses down the street. Of course, he was married to Mariah Carey at the time. So, and Destiny's Child had recorded there, and all these people. I mean, it's a sobering moment, and for any artist, when you're in that setting. But when you get to the point where to your point, when you work with your favorite artist, um, it's, I guess the most exciting thing is that there's you're always evolving and you're always learning.
Mhm.
So even though you may have 40 Grammys underneath your belt, just hypothetically, you're still learning and you're still putting
Mhm.
material out there. Like, I mean, Taylor Swift right now is at the peak of her career.
Mhm.
At some point, once you reach that peak, you go, okay, I'm not running out of material, but my fan base is getting older. So what can I do to reinvent myself? And that is basically something that I personally, had to do and have to look at, because as you're getting older, the younger generation, and want to say the 20-year-olds are now 30, the kids that were just kids are now in their 20s, and you have to be able to learn, adapt, and change when possible. And that's what the best artists do. I mean, Shania is what, close to almost 60, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And she's still rocking it like there's no tomorrow. So and I've covered some of her stuff. So, when it was just out, and You're Still the One, Whose Bed Have Your Boots Been Under, stuff like that. And when you create something, you create a legacy. And this is for anybody starting out or anybody who's trying to reinvent themselves. Try to be different, set yourself apart. Don't try to mimic someone else, because you have an inner voice. You have your own way of developing a sound and making a statement. So why not tell a story from your perspective? So then it truly becomes your story, Kylie. It's not someone else's story. There's nothing wrong in doing covers of material, but doing it and making it your own, I think, is important for anybody.
Yeah, that's so true, because like if you're an artist and you've been doing, for example, in the music industry for 20 or so years, and you're so big like Taylor Swift, that like some people think like, oh, she's so big, she doesn't have anything to learn, like she has everything, like she just hit the $1 billion mark. And I'm just like, even if
Yeah.
she's, in her early 30s and performing all over the world and is dating a football player and, has everything she could possibly get, there's still, always, time to learn. Because when she started, maybe she was like, I think 16, I could be wrong, or like around 16.
Yeah,
But
about 14, I think,
yeah,
14.
about 14 to 16, yeah. And
And
like when she
country
first,
music.
yeah, she was in country music. Yeah, like when she first started out, she was in country music. She wasn't in pop. But as she got older, she later transformed into pop music later than country. And even though, as you grow older, your mind shifts, and you might not want to be part of that generation anymore. And even with Shania Twain, for example, like she was really known back in the 80s, 90s, but her hit single, Him Man, I Feel Like a Woman, really, took a big hit off of her. Like, like with that song is still one of the best songs to be ever written, and
It's
still one of my favorite all-time songs to be written to this day. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. But it's like every artist, even if they have that one song they're mostly known for, like every artist, even if they're so popular, like they still have time to learn. Like there's still, a bunch to learn, even though you might be so big.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is everyone, your base is always going to constantly, get older, evolve, and even just what's popular in just, pop music or R&B or even jazz. I mean, things are going, things eventually change, and you go back to doing the stuff that but they now they're calling it throwback. Like 80s music is popular again, but 80s music in the 80s was like 50s music
Hmm.
in was it to the 80s. So you know it'll be interesting to see where artists and people go and what people do, and you have to roll with the punches.
And like, how do you tend to bring like your kind of musical background going up to today to classical crossover?
Well, classical crossover is like it's kind of sort of like fusion jazz. Like fusion jazz is like taking contemporary jazz and mixing it with rock or R&B. Classical crossover, of course, is traditional operatic style, but you're using vocalists and instrumentation that's done in a way that it's making it like a pop version of a classically style music. So the beginning of last year, perfect example was the crisis in Ukraine was going on.
Mhm.
And you always want to do something to make a difference in the world musically. So what I had done was I decided to do a video to showcase the beauty of Ukraine. And you hear everything in the news, and at that time it wasn't good.
Mhm.
So the video was done, and I figured, well, I'm just gonna put a film score to it, and it's gonna sound great. That didn't happen. I just started playing Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah along to it. And probably about 4 or 5 minutes, into it, and I recorded it, and I'm like, this sounds fantastic. Put it to the video, and I posted it on social media. Then about maybe 6 to 8 hours later, the number one classical crossover vocalist on iTunes
Really?
sends me a message. I love your version. Can we do a collaboration? I, of course, went to YouTube. I heard her music, and I went, "You've got to be kidding me!" Next day, I get her vocals on top of my piano track and put it to the video. And it's funny, I've never actually cried with anything that I've done, but it's so perfect and it's so poignant. Like, to be 4 or 5 thousand miles away from each other, and you're basically, it sounds like you're sitting in one room having this conversation and
Mhm.
and communicating musically. It's magic. And then I did it one other time with a gentleman when the murders in Uvalde, Texas took place, and I decided to do a Queen cover. And the exciting part about that, this gentleman was classically trained. I found him on YouTube, not known, not a big name, right? And Kylie, we just had a nice conversation on, via social media, and we're going back and forth. And he's like, "Let's try it." Put it out there, and people were just blown away that this sounds like Queen, you
Mhm.
know. But I think the coolest part of the whole thing was I was out in my backyard, and the track was playing in the radio in the UK. And I looked at the cell phone, and it said international call. The gentleman on the other end of the line was Adam Lambert. And
Adam
who's
Lambert?
yeah. And that's what I said. I'm like, okay, who's pranking me? And he's like, "Hey, we just heard your version, whether it was social media, whether it was on the radio, and I love your interpretation of the song, and Freddie Mercury would also love this interpretation of the song." And I went, "What did I just do?" You know,
Like, I would have just died right at that moment. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like,
I was like, if I knew you were calling, I would have definitely recorded this phone call,
yeah.
But I mean, he's such a great guy. I respect his musicianship. I respect his work. And, you know, when it comes down to it, we're all human. We are all on this earth together. And doesn't matter how famous you are, doesn't matter how how big you are, people are, um, you can make a difference. You have a say. You got to believe in yourself, and you got to go out there and say, something, I'm going to be the best version of me today and go out there and do the best that you possibly can. And that's what I try to do each and every day. And if you at the end of the day you say, listen, I've done everything I could, well then check the box, you've got it done, you
Mhm.
know. And I guess what makes a good musician? Well, it's someone who takes the time, always listen, always pay attention, and listen to the things that you're not even wild about, you know. And I'm sure there are people in their 20s, 30s, 40s that go, you know, oh, I don't want to listen to that, and I don't want to listen to that. It's not, don't listen because you have to listen to it for the artistic value,
Mhm.
as opposed to, well, I don't like this group, or I don't like that group, because you can infuse those things. And that's what classical crossover is like. You can use classical and heavy metal, classical and jazz, classical and pop, and you never know what's going to happen. And when Adam Lambert calls you, that's even a better deal.
Yeah, like if I had someone call me out of the blue, like that I loved and listened to, or even someone like that's like an actor or something, and call me saying like, "Oh, I love your version of this," or "I love you like you're doing," I'm like, I'd be like, no one's gonna live up to that phone call. Like no one's going to like that will literally encourage me. I'm sure it did for you as well to really just keep going, to hear someone from Adam
Yeah,
Lambert with how big he is and how much music he's making and how influence he's making right now, like, it's crazy to receive one of those phone calls from a big A-list singer-songwriter to be just saying, "Oh, I love your version," like, that really would influence you to hear someone that big in industry right now call you, be like, "Okay, well, I love your version of this song, like, great work." Like, it really just, encourages you to keep going and to become a singer-songwriter. Like, if I received that phone call, like, from someone that's, like, big in industry, I would have been like, "Okay, I don't care what I'm going through right now, I'm really gonna, like, do as much as I can to, like, maybe reach out other celebrities or something to really just make an influence on different other people besides this person." It really just pushes you really harder to make an influence for your music or work.
and one more thing quickly to your point is, you know, the, it's the people too that make you keep going. There's people that follow on social media, and you see they're from Norway, and there's a couple of people in Norway and Iceland and Sweden, and when you post, hey, good Saturday morning, how's everyone? How are you doing? They take the time to post back or listen, and they're much as part of your life as you are part of theirs. And
Mhm.
so it's important that anything that you do, you keep the people who are listening to you in mind, so that you keep them engaged, and then they spread the word.
100%. And like I know like earlier during the interview you said you will cover songs by other artists. Like how do you kind of choose the songs that you cover? Is there any specific process that you choose the songs?
That's a good question. It usually, for for me, it's got to hit that core. um Something inside of you that is maybe how you feel at that moment, maybe just what's going on in the world at that moment. um you know it's funny because vinyl's big again, so I have a huge vinyl collection, as well as to all the everything you have that's streaming. And you know I'll listen to one thing, then I'll listen to something else, and different things will inspire me to say, hey, maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to change something. Maybe I want to put my spin on it and do it. So I guess really answer your question, it's like really how I feel at that moment, and then what am I trying to say? And that usually kind of turns around and you go, well, okay, um, I'm in a really great mood and I want to put a great summer song out. So what's inspiring me? Is it the Beach Boys? Is it, like Michael Jackson? Is it Earth, Wind and Fire? Is it um Kelly Clarkson? I mean, it could be anyone or anybody, or a mix of styles or a mix of rhythms and melodies, and then you could just kind of throw it in all one basket, and then you're good to go.
Mhm. And you just came out with an album called Christmas Magic. Like, what made you kind of decide to write a Christmas album around this time?
Um, so last year I came out with a Connecticut Christmas, which was mostly instrumental, showed off all the jazz and chops, and also some of songwriting. I wanted to come out with something that was more pop, something that would, for example, any of your listeners, any of your fans who are on social media, um, can plug in my name and actually put that song as part of their TikTok, as part of their, Instagram, Facebook, and actually make it part of your holiday. I wanted to do something that was comparative to um, everything you hear on the radio, but nothing like you've ever heard before.
Ooh, that is such a good mindset. Like, I feel like that is the best way to really just make a new song come out in an album, because I feel like with having an approach of, come out with an album someone never heard before, it really pushes that other person that's listening to your music that may be a singer-songwriter or up and coming, really just kind of go into those footsteps that you're creating and really do it for themselves and create, a different genre, or really just try to create something different for other artists to pursue, which I love. But were there any songs or lyrics that stuck out to you in an album?
Uh, well, the whole idea of Christmas magic, if you watch the Macy's Day Parade and
Hmm.
you see how they say believe, uh, I mean, that has a real big significance, for Christmas, for Thanksgiving, and most importantly, it's a time of year where we have to let everything else and what's going on in the world, forget about the shopping, forget about, it's it's creating that magic that's, within ourselves, within our family, helping others, doing what we can in the world, and trying to make the world a better place. And with everything that's going on, if we do something, it's better than nothing. And I wanted to create that sense of kind of hope and magic, and bring things back to where we are. And there's literally country, R&B, pop, jazz on this album, so it has something for everybody. And you know, I can't believe the amount of streams right now that it's gotten, and it isn't even Thanksgiving yet.
Hmm.
So hopefully, I mean, I right now I see people using it on Instagram as part of their advertising campaigns, which is kind of wild. And we're talking like in Japan and the UK and Germany, and it's really surreal. But then again, when you take this, all started back in last January, and now we're in November, so it's like now it's about time to get it out there and get it out to everyone who's ready to listen to Christmas music.
And like right now, especially in November, like I've realized that a lot of people and artists are really releasing Christmas music in November for Thanksgiving. Like the last couple of days, like Walker Hayes came out with a song, like a Christmas song. Joe Nichols came out with a Christmas song. Like so many people are coming out with new Christmas music, and it's getting so many like listeners and views. And it's not even Thanksgiving. Like the Christmas music really starts coming out and people are listening to it once in November 1st hits after Halloween. Like that's when it first starts. Like that's really what it starts me with Christmas is that like once November 1st hits, I'm in a full Christmas mode. I don't care about. I just want to pass through and make it through Thanksgiving. Like I just wanted to make it through to go to Christmas because I love Christmas. It's a big deal. My family. I can go on about Christmas Eve for my family because it's a huge deal for my family. But what these Christmas is really I don't not everyone celebrates Christmas, but for most people Christmas is a great way to really dive into different Christmas music, or whether it's like new music or old music, like Mariah Carey, for example, with her music she released for Christmas. Like with her, like she made one of the best Christmas songs of all time. Like still every Christmas, I still listen to that song she released. Like she's just one of the best, artists to really come out with a Christmas album or a Christmas song. And it's like even when coming out with Thanksgiving and everything, like even before Thanksgiving, the Christmas listenership has gone through skyrocketed because everyone's just like Christmas mode and is happy to be going through Thanksgiving at this moment. Like it's just everyone's already Christmas mode and it's only like November. Like it's absolutely crazy.
It's kind of funny you mentioned Mariah. I had someone do a cover of "Miss You Most at Christmas Time" on this album, so which is originally done by Mariah, and it's again it brings people. Again, like you said, not many people celebrate Christmas, and so there people are still going to be shopping. People are still going to be uh, you know, whether they're in the car, turn the radio on, turn the TV on, there's going to be something that is going to make them feel the holiday spirit. And
Definitely.
that's what I hope, people get. And if it gets you up and makes you dance and, just makes you feel good. That's kind of why we do what we do, is that
Mm.
we want to make people feel good as opposed to making people feel bad. You never hear it's like Taylor Swift's new album, is driving people to go crazy. You know,
Mm.
it no, you never hear anything like that. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of people to, help put the stuff together. And a lot of this stuff was actually recorded during the hot heat of the summertime. And but it gets you in the mode now where you know it it's getting cooler out, and and just a week we'll be putting up a Christmas tree
Mm.
literally right behind me. So
Yeah, like it's like we for us like with things like Christmas, Thanksgiving. Like for me, like getting to Christmas mode is really just listening to music and putting up the Christmas tree. Like right now, as we speak, I don't know if you hear it, but it's very windy outside. The plane where I can just die on my windows. Like it's so windy out and so cold. It makes me think like, oh my gosh, like how is this already my joy right now? Is I hate the cold, like I hate the cold, but it's like it really reminds me that we're so if it's cold and windy, we're closer to Christmas than we were a month ago. Like it just makes me so happy to really get into that mode. But like, how did you kind of, gain, experience in music working with Rosa Rio, Lynn Larson, Father James Miller, Bobby Ralston, and Larry Farley?
I mean those were artists, when I was first, yeah, kind of learning my instrument and, learning from, mind you, like maybe 12, 13 years old, listening to these professionals. They weren't like professionals that you would maybe necessarily hear on the radio, but at their instrument, at the organ, at the piano. They really just their style, the way they handled themselves. I mean, and on stage and off stage, really gave me an opportunity to say, this is the kind of person I want to be. And it's really, I guess it's really impressionable at that age, when you have so many influences of what's going on, like MTV and radio and this and that. That's when MTV actually used to play videos. But I mean, it was just an exciting thing to be around, because it's something that you never heard, and it gave you the inspiration to want to do and want to study, because unfortunately a lot of parents they want their children to play a sport, they want their children to play an instrument. If you don't have that passion and you don't have that drive and that love to do it, you can't force it on somebody. So, it's what you're exposed to, and it's how you deal with things. I think that, it's very important. And that's why those people played such an important role.
Yeah, because like I love what you just said, because like if you don't have, a passion for, let's say music or acting, like why even bother taking the time to do that if you don't have a love or even a care in the world? Like even if you love it so much and you just feel like, okay, well, like I hate it so much right now, like I'm getting so many no's, it's not working out. Like maybe just take a break from it. Like there's, always a hardcore to this industry, especially music. Like not everything's gonna come to you directly because of this music, but even if you don't love it or you don't have a passion for it and your parents maybe just force you to be, this songwriter, then just do it. Like if you don't like it, you're just doing to please somebody, just do what's best for you, even if it's like, saying like, okay, I don't like it. Like, what else can I do to make you proud? Like doing something for yourself that you might enjoy, saying pleasing other people is so important that I'm still honestly working on right now.
I mean, it takes a lot of dedication to do anything in this world. And, and it takes a very long time to get things right. One thing I thought it's going to be like, oh, once I learn every scale and do this and do that, and then you have somebody come along who's never taken a lesson in their life and could and like blowing you away.
Mhm.
Um, so for me, again, it was okay. Once you find what you want to do and how you want to do it, it's just, again, practice, 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 and really just, you know, do as much as you can, as often as you can, and never give up. Never give up. You're gonna make mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes, and then you're gonna have those moments where you stand there and you go, I can't believe that, this moment is happening. But if you work hard and you believe enough that, you'll get there. And that's why you never give up. If you have something in you and you've been given a gift such as yourself, don't don't just say, well, things are not going my way. That's it. I give up. Forget it. Listen, there was probably 4 or 5 times I was going to give it up. And now that I look back and say, geez, if I would have given that up, this wouldn't have happened, that wouldn't have happened. So
Mhm.
yeah, just stay true to yourself.
I love that. Like, I can't tell you also like how many moments I almost gave up as well. Like it was, a million times I almost gave up, to be quite honest with you, with this podcast and many other things. And if I could, I wouldn't have the opportunity to be, interviewed on different podcasts or even doing this interview right now. Like it's honestly like getting those accomplishments honestly makes you, a better person, but also having those self-doubts to be like, okay, why am I doing this? Like this is going nowhere. Like, what am I doing? But the most important thing personally that I realized is also working hard for your craft. Like if you're not working hard or doing anything, you're not gonna go anywhere. But like the last thing I wanted to ask you before we head off is what are some ways you collaborate with other musicians to create a modern spin to a more traditional sound?
Um, I mean, yeah, primarily with this album. You know, I wanted to get back to like all the pop roots and I mean, 'cause pop music can change.
Mhm.
And the thing is, it's finding people that I guess the thing is, I made a list, right? And I go, okay, one, this is what I want it to sound like, and then two, here are my here are my influences, here are my ideas, and then you find people that kind of fit those molds. Um, Not everybody is a perfect mold, so that's why you hear various voices on the album, and it's important because also too everybody tells a story a different way. For example, you may be the next reporter, or be on the next Entertainment Tonight, or could be hosting a game show. Everybody is has different talents. Everybody has a different skill set. So, when it comes to music, you have to kind of see, well, this person has this voice for this person has, this playing style for guitar, bass, drums, and I guess you kind of find what works, and to have that discussion and throw out that communication early on, and working, oddly enough, a lot of the people I've worked with have been remote, just as we're talking right now. When they're giving them the track, they're laying their vocals on it and send it back, and then you put that in post edit and do all this good fun stuff, and it's like you really don't realize what it sounds like until you put it together. And again, I'm not open. It's not that I'm not open to working in a studio, but we have the technology where we can work with other people who are so talented and have such big backgrounds that we can, you know, the only difference between us is time. Like in the UK, it's 7 o'clock at night. So if I'm recording now, I got to get up 7 o'clock in the morning, as opposed to 12 noon. So that's what I look forward to, kind of like in 2024. Is keep doing more original stuff, and still yet connecting and redoing things that have been out there, but putting it in a new way with new voices and new sounds and new instrumentation. So people can feel good. People can just chill, rock out. Just do what they need to do, and let us be the soundtrack of their lives.
Yeah, like everything you said is spot on. Like even with technology to this day, like you can go in the studio to record, but not everyone might not be in that area to record, or they might not have enough money to, to fly over to where you are to really record. So with technology today, they can just go on their computer, get a sound system on their computer, and just record it and send it over to you. And you can, as they add things, but it's like with technology, you can always travel to the studio, or you can do things online and do everything from there. Especially with the pandemic, it really, shifted things on how things were done, because not a lot of artists could go in the studio and record. Not a lot of artists were able to collaborate in person. The only way to collaborate is like what we're doing right now, and also recording through a sound system on a computer. So really with COVID, it really did shift, the way people did things in the music industry and how they record.
Just to your point very quickly, people now, you can work from home. You can communicate with more people on a larger base, a larger scope. And, music is for everyone. And you will find, I've heard people say, I don't like music. There's nothing for me out there. And then you hear them singing along to a commercial and you go, oh, I thought you didn't like music. And it's like, something grabs people, something gets a hold of people. And, I, again, there's so many young people out there, and I like tapping into, new talent and working with new talent, because it taps into things that maybe I haven't thought about in a long time, or working with new styles that is there. It's new for them and it's new for me as well. So we're able to collaboratively work together and come together and say, let's take how we're feeling and let's put it to music.
I love that. And I think that is the perfect way to end this episode off on a right now. Thank you so much, James, for coming on to Time to Chat. I learned so much from you, and I appreciate everything you're doing. Your work is absolutely awesome. I know I say that word a lot. Don't get me wrong. I love saying that word. I don't know why I keep saying that word, but it's a good word. They should add it to it. Everyone should say that word. But thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of your day wherever you are. And thank you so much, James, for coming on and telling us about your story. We really appreciate it.
I thank you very much. And you get a chance, it's all on Spotify, it's all on social media, and we make sure that to put all the links so you can put it on your part of your holiday this Christmas.
Definitely. I'll definitely share on social media, and make sure to go check it out, and have a great rest of your day, everyone. And thank you, James.
Thank you.